Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Tuesday. It is September the 8th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And for all intents and purposes, today is a Monday trading day. Hope everybody enjoyed the holiday weekend, extended break. But let's talk about today's chart lesson. Pretty typical kind of day you might see. The volume was much more manageable, much more what I would call, I really don't want to say more normal because it's not more normal. It doesn't really make sense, but it's closer to normal than what we have been seeing. So it's more of a realistic or an average kind of volume. Um, we don't have this, we were getting 2 or 3 and 4 times this many bars in a single day not long ago. And this is kind of typical price action. We traded up, then we went into a range, and then when we broke out, we traded up into this, so we broke out higher. And generally, what I'll do is I'll get my measured move from over here, and I'll move it up, and that'll be generally your targets. That's what that blue line is. As you can see, we didn't quite get there. So, but that would have given you a target to be working towards, and that would have kept you in the market till basically the close almost if you were trying to manage a runner or something based on that. So, uh, and it's pretty, probably an average number of trades today as well. Um, that's really about all I can point out about the overall picture of the chart. Really, your shorter term ones kind of kept you in the right place. Really, it was you're basically playing this range um, until we broke higher here, and there's actually a short here that I missed. I meant to circle this short. I'm going to make it green, but it was definitely a short to consider. So move that back over there. And it's real close to being blue. You might even could make an argument, I mean red. You might even make an argument for being red. But anyway, let's back out. You see the bigger picture. Let's back out and talk about the trades. Um, there's actually, this one actually should be green here as well. This was right around the 7 o'clock hour. First real opportunity you had to enter the market after 7 o'clock. And notice that there's two legs moving down. Um, we did get a little resistance on the EMA there. We pushed on through though. So that made that, and look how this low is much lower than this one or even this one. So that's got that reversal type clues setting up there. It was um, it really wasn't the first break, but there's a channel working up through here. Really, we had a break here, but a lot of times when you get a break like that in the overnight, you got to get another break, and you'll still generally get a push to retest the high. So I really thought we would push to retest the high, and taking that train of thought there, you might look for this to at least be good for a scalp. It's a two-legged move. It's really only a first entry on this chart though, although if you went to a slightly smaller chart, you'd see a clear two legs down and a second entry right here. And this is a fairly nice bearish bullish bar, uh, but already I talked about the possible break, the push through the EMA, um, the new high, and then the suddenly making a much lower swing than the previous swings. That's just not a good sign that we're going higher. But again, there's enough reason to think you might get a scalp here if you want to be aggressive. And when it turned down there, um, that was really interesting. There's actually another short right here that I'll bet that's good, should be green too. It's going to be that signal bar right there. And let me show you, you're working down. You got a first entry pullback. So that's a failed second entry long, but it's also working down off that trend line. And so you can go short right there. The reason I didn't really like it, even though it's a trap, look at all those bars stacked up there. It did go out the top and turn and go straight out the bottom. So, and it's good for a scalp. So aggressive trader may take that one as well. And so I'm going to mark it green too. But when it bounced right here, I like this one better because now you got a double bottom. I really still thought we may test that high again, and so I liked going long on that one. Um, it was an easy scalp, then it comes back down, so I didn't like entering again right there. Although that is the double test, I really thought this might, there's a chance of it breaking higher and trapping you, which it would have. There's still some reasons to consider that one, but look how flat the EMA is getting now. This is starting to look like a trading range. At one time I had this smaller line a little bit lower here, right across there when we turned down off of it. Um, but in the end, I think the range, this bigger range, was right across there, like so. But anyway, um, if you, again, I didn't like entering long here yet because this was the first break of this channel and you didn't have a new low in, but I didn't like going short right here either um, because it's right into support. So I really, and you're not sure that you got a trading range here yet, but when we bounce here, um, and it was even tempting to go long right there, but then you definitely got all that stacked up there. And the only reason I like this one, it's kind of hard to see all that, I apologize. Let me make it a little bigger. But you can see the range there now. It's real obvious. Um, so the reason I like this one is because now you know that you can see the range real easily. The bias is still slightly up at this time, although it's starting to become more neutral. And this gives you this is a reversal type bar. It's got that one little tick lower than this than that previous close and those previous lows. So it's kind of like a trap, and there's enough room to scalp out before you get to the high. So I liked now it's pretty obvious it's a range, and it's giving you a chance to buy it low. It's tempting to sell it up here as well, and you could have. But the bias was still kind of up because we're still looking for a possible retest of the highs. And so I'm still thinking long. We traded up pretty much into this range. Although there's somewhat of an argument that we traded down from here into it. I think the bigger picture is we traded up into this area right here because the range really started way over here. And you can see that right across there. I later adjusted it down some right there. But anyway, so that's the reason I don't like going short across here really. Once we pass this one, then we bounce again and comes right off that low, fairly bullish bar. This one's real close to being green, but eventually testing those lows so many times, you figure it's going to break out. You don't know that this is going to be the time, but you figure you're with that little trap there and this making a higher low that we're probably going to at least get a failed breakout the upper side as well. And you get this little trend working higher. You get a pullback, you get a second entry there. I went back and forth about this one as well. It's good just enough for a scalp. There's maybe an extra tick or so in there, but I like that reversal bar. It's the first break of this little trend. It's really kind of a breakout pullback long. There's a couple of different reasons that you might like this, and you figure now, hey, we may go on up and test this high, but at the same time, you could also be concerned about this one because, hey, it could be a failed break out of this trading range right here. So that's the reason I didn't like going short. Plus, you got the trend line working up. So this looked like a trap to me. And guess what? This is also a failed second entry short because that's a new low right there. It's lower than that one. So you get a first entry pullback, and that's a second entry. You figure you're going to trap some people here. And so that's why I like that one. Even if you used a stop up there, it still worked. But this is one you might wait on that break and drop a limit order in. It's really tempting to go short, but I think you needed to wait on the second entry. But guess what? You never get one till way down here, and then you're back at the lows again. So you can't go short there. It was tempting to go short right here as well, but and it did break higher and turn down right there, and that is a form of a second entry short, but it's right there at those lows. There's not much room, and then it bounces again. It gives you a possible trend line here, but that's a doji. So when it broke higher again, now you got a failed second entry long, and so I like that when it went higher and it turns and comes down. It tried to close back up. So you could have just used a stop there. You might want to use a limit order. It's right into these lows, so it's not a great entry, but it was a trap. And you do have, looks like a spike and channel working down. The only thing is if you saw this channel, you got a break and a new low now, and so there's a chance you could get trapped. And it did end up bouncing, but you got enough movement there that you could take a scalp if you wanted. And you can see that trend line still holding right there. So, and it broke higher, turned down. So, you know, and that's a fairly bearish bar right there. So, just some things to think about. Then you finally get a break here, and you get a second entry short. This is really your signal bar, but I don't like going short on that one. I like waiting on this one, and when you get a break below it, dropping your limit order back up here. Or you really could have considered going short right there, but it's a really big stop when it broke lower there. You could have tried to get in back here with a limit order, and you still could have gotten filled a couple of ticks back in there. Or you really could have even used a stop there. I didn't expect it to get through here, that because if you measure this down, this is a perfect measured move. So I just figured we'd move to the other side. This turned out to be a pretty good trade. He actually broke lower. So I did like that setup right there. It's a second entry short. You know, it's the first break of this spiking channel. It's at the midline. A couple of different reasons to like it. You figure you're coming back to test that low again, and that's what happens. You actually could have got several, you know, a couple extra points out of that, depending on how you managed it. And then we bounce. It's tempting to go long, but by the time you get your second entry, look at all those overlapping bars. I think you got to wait. You get a somewhat of a trap here, but by the time that bar is so big and you're right back up at the top, there's a chance it touches there and turns down. So I don't think you can go long there. And then it's working back, and you only got a first entry. You don't have a very good signal bar, so you just really couldn't do it. I think you're better off just to sit tight, really. And this is where you got to be patient. Look at that. It's not quite 10 o'clock, and before you get another trade, it's 11 o'clock. So you got to sit there for an hour and something and trade that. And you might have considered going long here because this is a true low, first entry pullback, second entry. So you could, but the second entry is way up here, so it's not really a failure. You had a break here of what looked like the trend line and a new high, so it could have turned up there and turned down. So I think you just have to sit tight through this whole move up and wait and see what happens. That was tempting here if you got a really good signal bar, because now you had a break and two legs up, and it's right off that midline. You know, you might even could make that one green. I'll give it a green, but I think you're better off to wait and notice what happens. You're working down, you get the break, you get a new low, but also you got a new high, you pull back, you get a first entry, pull back, and you get a second entry, and it's right here back where the lows were. You get a nice bullish bar, and you could use a stop there, or you could let it break up, and maybe if you want to be a little more conservative, use a limit order, and you would have gotten filled a tick or so back in that. And this turns out to be a pretty good move, and it runs straight up, and you don't really get another chance to go long. And guess where it finds resistance up here? We talked about it. You can see it looks like you probably got a close outside right there. It's iffy, and a move to a new low, but that's a kind of a reversal bar. We're way away from the EMA. This one's almost borderline red, but I made it green anyway. And it turns down. This turns out to be another good move. And then this one ends up bouncing early. So you really don't get a chance to enter long. There's no other chance to enter short. It's tempting here, but you're right back into that resistance. And if you go short there, if you did go short there when it got hung up and started working across, you better exit with what it'll give you. But I just don't think you want to go short there, and you don't really want to go long either. And again, you don't get another opportunity to enter this until you don't want to go long. I mean, there's a breakout pullback long right there, but it's just a second entry counting off the lows. We're still way away from the EMA. The setup bar is not very good. So I think you need to wait on a trap, and then you get this failed second entry short there, and it reverses. And that's a good sign that we're probably going to head higher. And that's what it does. You finally get a break right here. And notice this new high, pullback first entry, pullback second entry. You get a second entry long right there off the EMA. First break, you figure you're going to make a new high. This is kind of a little trading range right here, so it's like a little failed break lower as well. Okay, I'm sorry, I had a little interruption there. But yeah, this took you right into the 2 o'clock hour too. This one was, borderline green, but there's enough reasons. You got this little trading range. Let me draw the line so it's real clear there for some of you. You can see that you got a little trading range working across here. So you got that going. It's a failed break lower, and this is an uptrend. So you figure it's going to run to the other side. And even though that has a little red tint to it, that's more bullish. And it's a bounce off the EMA. It's a two-legged pullback to the EMA. So a lot of reasons to like that for at least a scalp. Usually you'd figure that's probably going to take on off, but they came back and trapped some people before they took it higher. So, and I got you into the 2 o'clock hour, so I didn't mark anything after that. But okay, just as I was wrapping up the video, I lost my audio for some reason, so I'm just going to come back and wrap up the last couple of minutes of it and clip this on to the end and delete the part without the video, the audio. But basically all that it missed was, the price action looks like it's closer to being normal than what we've seen recently. An average kind of number of entries, about 8 or 10 entries here, maybe 12 or 14 if you count the more aggressive ones. So not much else we can say about today. Kind of a quiet day. You really had to be patient in here in some of this. And there's some other trades. I mean, you might have considered some longs in here, but I just think they're, if I didn't mark them and they're, in red or blue, then there's some reasons to stay away from them. So even though you might see that they worked and they might, if they're better setups on your chart, that's one thing. But, I only saw about 8 really good trades. Most of them were longs. We had the one short here, and there was another possible one even here, but and here there was one here as well, possibility. So, but I'm not going to go back and rehash those. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.